And if a snake is in an inconvenient location, there are people who will come and relocate them, but usually a squirt from a water hose will move them along and they won't
Oh,
come
yeah.
back.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Clear Lake Connections, where we talk to the people behind the businesses in Bay Area Houston, proudly sponsored by UTMB Health. Today, I have Tim Pylate, the Executive Director of Armand Bayou, and I believe we might have some friends with you.
I do.
Okay, so we'll get into that in a little bit. Tim, tell us about Armand Bayou Nature Center and what it is that you guys do, and really, what people can expect when they come.
Well, Armand Bayou Nature Center is really a gem of the Gulf Coast. It is one of the largest urban wilderness preserves in the United States with more than 2,500 acres. We have 5 miles of walking trails, we have scouting programs, we have eco-education programs, and we have a whole host, a menagerie of ambassador animals at Armand Bayou that are participate in our programs to teach people about the importance of their local wildlife. Our mission is twofold. First is to protect the habitats with which we've been entrusted, and then secondly, to educate the public about why these habitats are so important to all of us.
Yeah, and for those that haven't been, you're right, it is a gem on the Gulf Coast because, let's be honest, we don't have rolling hills, but there's some beautiful scenery out there. Tell us about some of your favorite things that visitors could expect to see.
Sure. Well, it's not often that you hear the words urban and wilderness in the same sentence, but that's exactly what we are. We're surrounded by all this urbanity. We're surrounded by the Pasadena Petrochemical Complex. We have University of Houston Clear Lake. We have NASA that backs right up to our back door, and as well as some residential neighborhoods that surround us. We protect 3 rapidly disappearing ecosystems at Armand Bayou Nature Center. The first is Texas coastal tallgrass prairie. We have about 900 acres of that. Texas coastal prairie used to range from Brownsville all the way over to Lafayette and about 60 miles inland. And so it was kind of like Little House on the Prairie right here. But there's only about 1% of that prairie left of that historical range. And we have about 900 acres at Armand Bayou. The second habitat is the riparian forest that runs along the edges of the bayou. It's a wetland forest. And then thirdly, the bayou itself and its accompanying marsh grasses. Our job is to sort of preserve those habitats and restore those habitats to their former glory. For example, on the prairie, we get rid of tallow trees and we get rid of persimmon and other invasive species. And along the edges of the bayou, we've done a great deal of restoration of those marsh grasses. The bayou and its accompanying marshlands around it provide extremely important ecosystem services for our area. For example, the roots of that tallgrass prairie go down about 20 feet into the ground, and they absorb those floodwaters whenever the bayou overflows its bank, giving the bayou room to breathe as all that floodwater comes rushing down the bayou. The forest does the same thing, the wetland forest. And then, of course, it cleans our water for us because those grasses and those trees absorb that water up into their trunks and evaporate it out through a process called evapotranspiration, and cleans our water for us. And then, of course, Armand Bayou is home to more than 370 species of wildlife, and it's an amazing educational and recreational opportunity for all of us.
Yeah, you said urban and that close, 370 species of wildlife. That's amazing.
I've been told that the diversity of wildlife along the corridor of Armand Bayou, just in that short little space, the diversity is comparable to that of the Amazon. We have quite an amazing array of animals right here in our own backyards. At Armand Bayou, many of the animal species that had previously been endangered or protected or disappeared from the area have returned back to this area due to the restoration work that we've done over the last several decades. For example, we have American bald nesting pair of bald eagles on the site. The American alligator has come back. Many of the colonial nesting water birds. The North American river otter makes its home on Armand Bayou. So it really is a special place. And you can see those animals if you go on one of our kayak tours that we do every Saturday, or on our pontoon boat tours that we do Saturday mornings and Saturday evenings, and then every other Sunday. So you can come out and really get a close look at that wildlife.
Now, the last time we met, and we talk a lot about successes on this show, but we've also started talking about, failures and learning from those. And you told me a very interesting story that kind of funny, but I guess in a way not funny, but it was about reintroducing the turkeys.
Yeah. We at one point we tried to reintroduce wild turkeys, which were native to our area, and unfortunately, what happened was the residents on those residential neighborhoods loved feeding deer corn to the deer that were out there and watching them as they sip their coffee in the morning, which is it sounds nice, but what happened was the turkeys got attracted to that deer corn as well. Well, it wasn't long after that the bobcats realized that every time they went with their deer corn, it was like feeding time for, and they came and ate all the turkeys. So it's very important that we respect our native wildlife, that we not feed wildlife. We shouldn't feed alligators. A lot of people think it's fun and tempting to throw a chicken leg in the water and feed a local alligator, but really it habituates that alligator and it can create a dangerous situation.
Yeah. So it's, again, human interference, and you guys are trying to prevent that as much as possible. And aren't you trying to you're trying to increase the size of that preserve? Tell us about that project.
We are. The original purchase back in 1974 has been expanding slowly over the last several decades, but it included 1,000 acres that is north of us that we are working very hard at raising the funds to purchase. That purchase would indeed make us the largest urban wilderness preserve in the United States.
Well, that sounds like a reason why Clear Lake area, Bay Area, Houston should get behind this project.
I agree.
We need to be number one.
Agreed.
So we're in the thick of summer. Are your camps full, or do you still have room in any of your camps?
Our camps are, there's always room, but we are so full right now. People are so excited to get back outside. Last year's summer camp, we had a very limited summer camp. There was people weren't quite ready to engage in that way yet, but now we have more than 100 kids in our summer camp. It really is a treat to watch kids running around. We do still have all of our safety procedures in place. We ask that the kids and the teachers wear their masks. All of our teachers are vaccinated by their choice. They've chosen to be vaccinated, but we still have our hand washing stations, and we still ask kids to maintain a social distance just for the safety of those kids, because they're not quite ready to be vaccinated yet. But the summer camp is full. It's mostly outside, but we do have times when we come inside to cool off again in a socially distanced and safe way.
Yeah, my kids used to go to your summer camps, and
nice.
they always enjoyed it. And so it's parents need ideas like that. They need to know that you're available.
Sure.
In this case, probably next summer.
Sure.
Too late for this summer, but
it's not too late.
The weekend trips, just the pontoon trips, things like that. They need to know about these things. They're right here in our backyard. How so many people don't know about it, to me, is amazing. But.
Well, we're working on that. We have a terrific website. If you've ever been on our website, it's absolutely gorgeous. All the photographs are taken by an award-winning photographer named Gary Seeloff. Absolutely beautiful, and you can sign up for everything on our website. We also have a pretty strong social media presence, and so you can follow us on Facebook and check us out there.
Now, I wanted to ask you how you got started in nonprofits, because it's a very interesting story. But before I do that, I have to go to Sherry Sweeney with majorly important chamber announcement.
Hello, Clear Lake Area Chamber of Commerce members and Bay Area Houston. If you're a small business owner of 20 employees or less, and you're ready to get a peer group together to help you with concerns you have at your business, maybe something with employees or financial, we have something for you. Here at the Clear Lake Area Chamber of Commerce, we have a new masterminds group you can register and be a part of. Contact clearlakearea.com by June 30th for more information. Now, this is for Chamber of Commerce members, so we can let you know how to join as well. Again, it's masterminds. Clearlakearea.com can give you all the information, and the registrations are due by June 30th.
All right, and we're back. So, Tim, tell me, how'd you get started in nonprofits? A quick description of the journey that's gotten you right here to Armand Bayou from very far away.
Yeah, well, actually, I grew up in Pearland, Texas, so not too far away. But after college, I went to the Peace Corps, and that began a career in overseas nonprofits and humanitarian aid all over the world. I spent almost 20 years in the former Soviet Union, Afghanistan, Lebanon, all across the world. But when it was time to come home, I really wanted to come back home to this area. And when the opportunity came available with Armand Bayou Nature Center, I was really excited. Our director for 10 years was retiring, and they were looking for someone who had nonprofit experience to come and take the helm at Armand Bayou. My first canoe trip as a scout was at Armand Bayou. My son caught his first fish at Armand Bayou Nature Center. So it really is a special place to me, in terms of nostalgia, but also, I grew up as a scout and really enjoyed the nature at Armand Bayou Nature Center.
And your passion really shows. And so it's you spoke at one of our luncheons, and the crowd loved it, and the stories, and just this idea that we have this resource right here, and it's time for people to rediscover it. Now, I understand you brought some friends.
I did bring some friends.
So we can probably take a look at these and discuss them a little, and maybe ask. We can talk a little bit more about.
Okay. So this is a speckled king snake. Her name is Buttercup, and you can see why. She's got these beautiful yellow spots all over her. And she is a really neat snake. The Latin name is Lampropeltis holbrooki, and that's because in 1842 she was first described by the herpetologist Holbrook. And so she is absolutely gorgeous. You can see these are really special snakes. You find them all over our area. And one of the reasons that this is a special snake is because she's a king snake, which means she eats other snakes. She eats other things too, but she eats other snakes, and she likes to get right up in those crawl spaces where those other snakes go, and she takes care of all your venomous snakes for you. She keeps all the venomous snakes out of your yard.
So they actively look for snakes to
Oh,
eat.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
That is one of their favorite foods. They'll eat other things. They'll eat other reptiles, salamanders, and things like that. But she is really, really good at eating snakes, especially venomous snakes.
Oh, my favorite snake of all time, right there.
Yep. She's a really cool snake. Yeah, she is quite a treat. And we have other snakes at Armand Bayou Nature Center. We have programs where kids are allowed to come and touch the snake, and obviously we have some venomous snakes that we don't allow the kids to touch, but they get to see them so that they can tell the difference between a venomous snake and a non-venomous snake. I'm a bit of a herpetologist myself. I'm a huge snake enthusiast, so these are my favorite animals. I love these guys a whole lot. They're really special.
Yeah, and the fact that they eat other poisonous snakes,
Right.
I'm a huge fan. So. We talked a little bit about identifying snakes, and you said there's no hard and fast rules, so that people really do need to take the time to actually see what could actually be harmful.
Sure, there are multiple identifiers that one should use when trying to identify a snake. A lot of people say, oh, if it's got a triangular head, but a lot of non-venomous snakes will make their heads triangular and flatten out whenever they're threatened. They say round eyes versus elliptical eyes. Well, when snakes are in the dark, their eyes dilate just like ours do.
Okay.
And so a lot of times when snakes are hiding in the dark, you say, oh, it's got round eyes, but that can be a very dangerous situation. In addition, that is not a hard and fast rule. For example, the coral snake has a round head and round eyes all the time. So it's really important to learn about your local snakes. And if you don't know what a snake is, just leave it alone. And if a snake is in an inconvenient location, there are people who will come and relocate them, but usually a squirt from a water hose will move them along and they won't come back.
Yeah, because people, we often say they're more afraid of us than we are of them. I think with snakes, there's something, I guess, very primitive about them that most people can't get over.
Sure.
But as you can see, Buttercup is just a playful king snake who, I reiterate, eats poisonous snakes.
Yeah, oh, there she goes. She's getting a little crazy here. We'll put her away for the time being. I've got another friend with us today.
I'm a big fan of king snakes now.
She is beautiful.
Yeah, she's gorgeous.
Underbelly, oh my gosh.
But even other snakes that aren't venomous, they do a good job of pest control, and that's that's what I had to tell my wife. It's like she saw a snake in the yard. I'm like, honey, we got to let that go. I mean, it's going to take care of some of the things that you like even less.
That's right. Great free rodent control. They control the frogs in your yard, etc. So like I said, even a venomous snake, again, he's more scared of you than you are of him. A little squirt from a water hose or a brush from a broom will move them along. Most of the time when people get bit, it's because they're trying to kill a snake. They're getting too close to it. They're trying to mess with it. They're trying to kick it away, that sort of thing. If you just leave them alone, they'll leave you alone. They're not interested in you as a food source. All these myths about snakes chasing people, they're misinterpreting the behavior. A lot of
Yeah.
times snakes are trying to get away, and they may scooch past you as they're trying to get away. Or you might be in your kayak, and a water snake will swim up onto you, but he sees it as a log. He's not it's not aggressive behavior. He's just getting some rest or whatever. So a lot of times people say, "Oh, that snake chased me." They're actually just misinterpreting the behavior.
That has happened to me while I was kayaking in Livingston, and that was truly terrifying.
Oh my gosh. My gosh.
Oh, look at him.
So this is one of the baby alligators that we have. I need to calm him down a little bit. He's a little excited to be here. He wanted to see everybody, so he's really, really excited. He can't wait to see everybody. In a minute, you may hear him start to go ear, ear for his mama. He kind of sees us as his mama. Alligators are extremely interesting creatures. We have, it's an American success story, conservation success story. As you may know, back in the 1960s and early 70s, you couldn't swim you could swim on Armand Bayou. You don't want to swim on Armand Bayou today because the alligators have come back thanks to the restoration work that we've done there and thanks to the Endangered Species Act. So they really limited alligator hunting. And so now the alligator is a true conservation success story. What a lot of people don't know is that alligators are also responsible for the return of many colonial water birds that had disappeared from this area as well. And I'll tell you why. Because mama alligator, right about this time of year, emerges in spring from her long winter's nap. She digs a little burrow in the side of the bayou during the winter, and then she comes out, and she is hungry and she's looking for love, and that's their mating time. And she builds a compost pile underneath a tree where she lays about 100 eggs. And then she buries it and guards that nest ferociously. Well, the birds love to set up their nests in the tops of the trees where mama alligator has set up her nest because she protects the birds from any raccoons or snakes or anything that want to get up into the tree and eat the eggs or the babies. So the alligator is really responsible for the return of many rookeries to this area. Rookeries being a place where birds have their nesting.
And so you've definitely seen this over the last however many years at Armand Bayou.
Sure, yeah, we've watched the alligator come back. Of course, we have some really big ones out there. We have some 12, 13-foot alligators, and you want to give them a wide berth. You don't want to hang out too close to an alligator. A lot of people talk about, an alligator is aggressive, but in all the years that they've been tracking alligator-human interaction in Texas, there's only been one death, and that was a guy in Orange County in 2015 who jumped into the water with a 12-foot alligator. It was one of those hold my beer moments. And, Darwin.
True Darwin Award winner. Yeah.
Yeah. So not to make light of an accident like that, but most of the time, if you give alligators a wide berth, they'll leave you alone. They're not interested in you as a food source. We actually don't suit their taste buds very much. Kind of like sharks. Once an alligator gets a hold of you, he realizes that you're not what he's looking for.
Yeah.
That said, alligators are opportunistic hunters, and you don't want to let your dog or your cat or something get really close to the water where you know that there are alligators around, because those certainly would become a snack. So you need to really be careful not to swim in waters where there are alligators, or let your animals, your favorite pets, swim in waters near alligators. But alligators are absolutely fascinating creatures. If you get too close, they will let out a hiss. Alligators grow about a foot a year. So this guy is about a year old. And as they get older, you can see their teeth. I'm going to show you his teeth there.
Oh, wow.
He has little bitty baby teeth right now, but those teeth get very, very big as they get older. So this is a little technique we use that gets them to show their teeth there. You can see he really wanted a piece of my finger there. So actually, they've got little sensory organs on the side of their nose. When you tap it, it makes them open their mouth. So,
okay.
But you wouldn't want to do this out in the wild, and you wouldn't want to handle it out in the wild. Also, it's illegal to handle it out in the wild. There are Texas Parks and Wildlife codes that prevent us from handling it.
So how long would mama stay around an alligator?
Mama keeps a hold of those babies for a full year after they're born. So it is the crocodilian maternal instinct is one of the strongest in nature. Mama alligator hangs out with her babies for a full year. In fact, she takes them into that den with her into the winter, and they stay with her. Now, they are also heavily predated. So like I said, she lays about 100 eggs, but very few of those survive.
Yeah.
And so that's why mama alligator protects them. But The alligator, Alligator mississippensis is the Latin name, remains unchanged for millions of years. So they are the apex predator on Armand Bayou. So they are pretty resilient animals. And again, once we stopped hunting them, they came back with a great deal of strength.
So, what would you say the biggest invasive species threats are right now to, let's say, Armand Bayou or in the state in general? But
Sure. Well, in the state in general, feral hogs are a huge problem. We do have on some of the preserve, we do have some feral hogs. We sometimes do have to, in the past, in distant past, we have had to do some trapping, working with trappers to get rid of the hogs. But the largest invasive species are plant species like water hyacinth, which is on the water, and it was brought here in the 40s as a landscape plant. It's a beautiful plant. It's very green and lush and floats on top of the water. It has a beautiful purple flower, this gorgeous bloom on it, and it's really, really pretty. But water hyacinth doubles in size every 10 days, and it'll actually completely cover the water, and it'll create fish kills.
Okay.
So you really have to watch after that. Elephant ear, which we've all seen in our gardens, that is also a really, again, a landscape plant that humans have introduced, and it has taken over, and it will crowd out the natural grasses that our wildlife need to survive. Other things like Chinese tallow trees. Chinese tallow trees were also brought here as a landscape plant because they're beautiful. They have they turn red and gold and orange in the wintertime, but they're very, very resilient. Anybody who's ever chopped down a tallow tree in their front yard will tell you it sprouts little sprouts off of the.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was talking for a second.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you were able to hear him talking, but he wanted to get involved. He wanted to tell you that the tallow tree is terrible for our area.
Yeah.
The tallow tree actually, in a period of about 10 years, a single tallow tree can create a monoculture on an acre of land.
Oh wow.
So they're really, really prolific, and so we have to work very hard at getting rid of those invasive species.
Yeah, I guess I've lived in this area now for 25, 30 years, and I've seen two invasive species on the kind of the reptile. Back in the 90s, it was those little clear geckos with the stripe.
Mediterranean geckos.
Yes, and now all of a sudden it's the brown anole taking over.
The brown anole really has taken over. It has, in fact, I read an interesting article not too long ago where the brown anole, because it is very much a ground animal, it has forced our native green anoles up into the trees, and over the course of what is the equivalent of 11 human generations, our native brown anoles have developed larger, stickier pads on their toes to adapt to being up in the trees to get away from the brown anole. The brown anole actually eats the small green anoles, and it will also eat the eggs of the green anole. And they are really, really fast, and they're really, really aggressive hunters. And so it has been, they're basically taking the place of our green anoles. A lot of people also don't know one of the, in terms of animal species, and I know it's a sensitive subject, but feral cats are extremely good hunters. They're amazing hunters. And there are some research studies that have shown that a feral cat will kill as many as 20 birds in a day. So it is the largest anthropogenic cause of the decline of the songbird population in the United States is pet and feral cats that get out and hunt our birds. Cats have a metabolism that requires them to eat they're a small animal, so they eat many times a day. They're amazing hunters, and so they're not always successful when they're hunting, so they have to hunt all the time. He's agreeing with me here.
Well, he's the apex predator, so
that's it.
He could help with the cat problem.
That's it. But what we encourage people to do is keep their cats inside because they're really good at hunting other animals, and they can make declines. In fact, there are islands in the world where certain bird species and certain small mammal species have completely gone extinct because of the feral cat population. So it's important to keep your kitty cat inside.
So I wanted to ask you kind of a two-part closing question. First, the freeze that we had, how did it affect Armand Bayou? And in what ways can people help, and what kind of help do you need right now?
Sure. Well, thank you for that question. The freeze actually didn't impact us that much at all. We had some of our lilies, kind of got wilty and but things were very, very resilient out there. In fact, we're seeing things bloom now that haven't bloomed. I'm not sure what happened, but it sort of shocked the system a little bit, and we're seeing some amazing blooms. We are seeing fewer of those brown anoles that you were talking about, so that's a positive thing about the freeze. We're also seeing less of the water hyacinth because of the freeze. It's a South American plant, so it really does like the warmer weather. So that has been a good thing for the bayou. Also, the elephant ear was kind of knocked down a little bit by the freeze. So those are some really good things that the freeze did for us. One of the bad things that the freeze did for us, and it depends on how you like spiders, but our golden silk orb weavers, which are by this time of year usually everywhere along Armand Bayou, have not been as prolific this year. So, but they'll come back during Ike. After Ike, many of our golden silk orb weavers disappeared, but they've been slowly coming back. They're a gorgeous spider. If you ever have a chance to come out and see us when the spiders are around, it really is a sight.
Yeah. And so, what types of help does Armand Bayou need? I know you need volunteers usually. You obviously need monetary donations. We talked about a capital campaign to double or to increase the size and protect more of this.
That's right.
Wonderful resource.
So first of all, come and see us at Armand Bayou. Come participate in our program. Send your kids to camp. Come join us on our pontoon boat tours and our kayak tours. That's the coolest way because then you're going to fall in love with Armand Bayou Nature Center. Come and see us. Walk our 5 miles of walking trails. It's $6 for adults and $4 for kids. It is a really, again, it's a tremendous wilderness that right here in your own backyard. But we do appreciate donations. We are a 501c3, so we appreciate donations. Your donation is tax deductible, and we would appreciate that. We also have an endowment fund, a legacy fund, the Armand Legacy Fund, as we called it. And so if you wanted to give in honor of someone who had passed or something like that, we can put that into that legacy fund so that your gift keeps on giving in perpetuity.
Awesome.
So, lots of ways to help us out. And if you want to volunteer at Armand Bayou, we have an amazing army of volunteers at Armand Bayou. We couldn't do what we do without volunteers.
You mean like getting rid of tallow trees?
That's right. That's exactly right. Getting rid of tallow trees. Our volunteers help us to do that. They help us to plant the plants out on the prairie and keep that meticulously curated prairie up to snuff.
Awesome. Tim, been such a pleasure. Thanks for bringing your friends. I think everybody's learned a little bit more than they expected to today, so thanks again.
Sure. Thank you. Really appreciate it.